Today we're going to be basically reviewing the material that we've been covering in the past couple of weeks related to special angled pairs and parallel lines. And so I've taken a look, and I've only had a small handful of people take the quizzes so far. They close on Wednesday. Sorry, they close on Friday. So don't rush. I'm sorry. I mean, don't rush, but don't wait too long, because you don't. I'm not going to be offering these quizzes in January because it's just too far away, and everyone's going to forget everything, and we don't have time to go back and review again. So please consider doing the quizzes as soon as you can. All right, there are three. Um, One of them I'll just, if you haven't, I'm assuming many of you haven't looked at them because many of you have done them. But the first one is on identifying pairs. And those are, for example, vertical angles, linear pairs, complementary angles, and then all of the types of angles with parallel lines. And there are five of those. You have alternate interiors, alternate exteriors, same side interior, same side exterior, and corresponding. And all you have to do for these, it's 10 questions. For this quiz, all you have to do is identify, are we dealing with alternate interiors or same side interiors, like picking the right names, or picking the angles that make the right pair. It's not too bad. It's really not. So if you remember what these things look like, if you have your notes in front of you, this one goes really quick. Okay, this one's not so bad at all. The next quiz is on finding measurements of angles. So and here, really, all you're ever doing is saying the two things are equal or congruent. So you've only really got three choices for these. Things are either congruent, which means they're equal, right? Things are supplementary. So you add up and equal to 180. Now, these are not solving of equations. So really, all you're really doing for these is subtracting from 180. Okay. And then finally, the third, which doesn't pop up too often because there's only one example of it, those are complementary angles. And those you subtract from 90, okay? All right. And so the only ones that you ever see that are like that are when you have, that kind of a picture where you've got that right angle in there. So these don't pop up too often, but congruent and supplementary pop up a lot in many of these. Okay, so these are congruent. All right, these are supplementary. Let's do this in a different color. Complementary angles, like I said, those just add up, those subtract from 90. Those are 90s. I'm just going to say that. And then alternate interior in all of these. So alternate interiors, those are congruent. Alternate exterior, these are congruent. Same side interior, these are supplementary. Same side exterior, supplementary. And corresponding are congruent. All right. So make sure you get those copied down, because that's kind of really helpful in your as a kind of a cheat sheet, is to tell you what to do. All right. Take a second, copy all of that down. So these are your first two quizzes. This is quiz 1 and this is quiz 2. All right, and the third one is solving equations, which we spent a bit of time on, but we'll talk about that also. And I can just put that down here right now. 3, solving of equations. So there you have to set them up and then solve for x. All right, give me a thumbs up when you've got all that copied. All right. Okay, almost everybody's done. Let's just give it one more moment. Okay. I'll also be posting this video up on YouTube as well. Okay. So identifying the pairs. Okay. So you've got vertical angles. Vertical angles are made when you have two lines crossing. Okay, so those two. We'll call them A and B, all right? Sometimes the picture is a little bit more complicated and it's got lots of stuff going on. Okay, don't let that confuse you. You know, that's vertical and to that one, you know, A and B are vertical. And let's say R and S are vertical. And let's say G and H. So, you know, A is congruent to B, R is congruent to S, and G is congruent to H. Okay, those, I mean, even if you've got more than one set of, you know, angles going on in there, you've got all those pairs, you know, you just look at an angle and you go through the vertex to the other side, and those two are your verticals. Okay. Vertical angles pop up a lot, so it's important that you're okay finding them. And I'll just put this down here. A is congruent to B. Okay. Okay. Now, the other pair that you need to be able to find, or you know, identify when you see them, is a linear pair. Okay. And the simplest example of what a linear pair looks like is this guy, these two. Let's call this, W and Y. Okay, those two make a linear pair. Now, there might be some diagrams that have like extra stuff in there. Okay, and don't let that kind of thing confuse you. Maybe it would look like this, where we've got a triangle in there now, so here's your W and Y again. All right, just because I threw that line in there doesn't change anything. W and Y still make a line together. Y is this big and W is that big, and since they're sharing that line together, that side together, if I go this big and then that big, I've gone and made a whole line. Right? And that's why they add up to 180 degrees. Okay. Even if they make a more complicated picture, or maybe just throw more lines in there, P and Q make a linear pair. Okay, so just make sure that you know the difference between vertical angles and a linear pair. Okay, just because I made this guy a little bit longer, these two are still next door to one another. Okay, so these are all examples of linear pairs. Okay, together they make a straight line. Okay. All right, now, we good? Give me a thumbs up if you're all caught up on this. All right. So now, all right. Now, for the parallel line, complementary angles. I forgot them. I've already mentioned them. I mean, but again, complementary angles all pretty much look the same. Complementary angles make a straight line. Sorry, make a corner. Okay, so let's just call them A and B. These two together would make 90. And sometimes the picture gets a little bit more complicated, right? I mean, they include extra stuff. Okay. So for example, let's call this L and M. Okay, these two make that right angle because if you got one right angle, all these other guys are right angles too. Okay, and so L and M would be an example of a complementary angle. So L plus M would equal 90, just like A plus B would equal 90. Okay, so just because they threw in extra stuff, the clue is to look for the right angle. Once you see the right angle, boom, you should be thinking complementary angles. All right, it's kind of the trigger clue to help you out. All right, there aren't going to be too many of these questions. All right. In that quiz, you'll get 5 questions out of all of these. Okay, so I mean, sometimes you might not get a complementary angle question. Just depends upon which questions you're picked. All right. Okay. Now for all the parallel lines there, okay, we kind of went and did this. I hope that you have these in your notes. We made this diagram, and I hope you copied this down. If you didn't already, then please do it now. But this is your guide. Oh, I'm sorry.
When you're done with that, can you please go to the other piece of paper real fast? I wasn't finished.
Can I just hide it over here?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay. Um, all right. Are we good on this guy? Almost. Just let me know. You aren't? Yes. Okay. Cool. All right. And so when you're identifying these pairs, just go ahead and mark them in here. All right. And so these are your alternate interiors. Okay, you see that they're on the inside of the lines and they're on opposite sides. These are my alternate exterior. All right, on the different sides of the line. You know, one's over here and one's over there, and they're both outside of the parallel lines. All right, or they don't even have to be parallel; they just have to be on the outside of the lines. These guys are corresponding because they're both in the same location. Okay, in this case, the two angles are in the upper right-hand corner of each intersection. You see, for that intersection, he's in the upper right, and he's also in the upper right. So these correspond; they're corresponding angles. These are same side exterior. And I'll tell you that on the quiz, all of the questions use same side. They don't have consecutive, but like IXL uses consecutive, but the quizzes say same side. We thought same side was a little easier for students to try to remember. And these are same side interiors. Okay, so this slide was given to you last week, but maybe you want to take it down again, or you know, patch it up, make it prettier, cleaner. Take a few seconds, make sure that's copied down, because these are the there's going to be 5 questions on your quiz about these. All right. Okay. Ready to go? All right. Can I take this away? Okay. So that's the whole first quiz. Okay, 10 questions, just picking the names. You know, there's really no math involved. You know, you don't even need a calculator. You just need those notes, and you should do fine. Okay. And now for quiz 2, all you're really ever doing is saying that two things are equal or subtracting from 80 or 190. So, for example, these guys, if I told you that this was X and this was 47 degrees, and then if I gave you a different problem, and said this was 52 degrees and this was Y, all right, so take a second, try these out and put your answers in the private chat for me. Okay. Gotten a couple of good answers. Guys, this one you should be able to answer in an instant. There's no math involved in this. Okay, these are vertical angles and vertical angles are congruent. Okay, so if this is 47 degrees, this is 47 degrees. Okay, so X is 47. All right, they are equal to each other. Okay, these two are a linear pair. They make a line together. They're touching and they make a line. So 180 minus 52 is 128, and that's it. Okay, they're either equal to each other or they subtract from 180. Okay. And then the only other one that you have left to worry about is that guy. Go ahead and find that one for me. Okay, I got some good answers in the chat. Like to get a couple more. Guys, you all have calculators on your phones. You're just subtracting two numbers. Okay, so 90 minus 76 is 14. So M is 14. Okay. So this is all you're doing. You know, for half of the second quiz. Okay, two things are either equal You subtract from 180. Or you subtract from 90. Is your only three options, guys. Okay. Recognize these pictures, please. Okay. And for the parallel lines, the way to really think about the parallel line stuff is, if they look equal, then they are equal. I mean, and if they don't look equal, then you subtract from 180. Right? That's really all there is. I mean, you take a look at it and you say, do they look alike? Do they look the same? Okay, so, if I told you that this was 110 degrees, all right, and all you had to do, I mean, like I said, you've only got two choices. They either look the same or you subtract from 180. So if I asked you for that angle, these two, they look alike, right? And if they look alike, they're equal. So how big is it? Okay. Now, these two, what do they look alike, don't they? I mean, they're both big angles, but these two, they don't look alike. And since they don't look alike, we can say that they're not going to be the same. And if they're not the same, you've only got one other option, and that's subtract from 180. So take 180 and subtract 110. What do you get? Okay, good. So 180 minus 110 is 70. And the fact is that because you know some of this stuff, you can fill in everything else. Like this one, these two are vertical angles. They look, beyond the fact that they are vertical, they look alike. This one's 110. These two, just close your eyes to the rest of it. I'm talking about these two. They don't look alike. They're not the same. So we subtract from 180 and get 70. And then this is 70 also. And all of these are the same as all of these. So this is 70 and 110 and 110 and 70. That's all of it. So as soon as you have one of the angles, you can fill in everything else. Okay. So for example, if this was 65 degrees, what you can do and what you should be able to do is to go into this picture and find all of these angles and then once you find all these angles and you have all four of them, you just copy them down here again. Go ahead and take a second and do that. Draw this picture and fill in the angles. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill them in. So you take, this guy does not look like him. So you go 180 minus the 65 gives me 115. And now you can fill in everything. So this is 65 because they're vertical to each other. And these two are vertical to each other. And now you take all four of these and you copy them down in here. And no matter what the question asks you, no matter what angles they pick for the particular question, you can tell them. All right. Let me ask this question. Scale of 1 to 5. How do we feel about all of everything that we've talked about so far? Okay. I think everybody's thinking about snow. We shall see what happens in the morning. Okay, with all that snow that's coming. Who thinks we're going to get a lot of snow? Who thinks we're going to have a snow day? Thumbs up if you think it's going to be a snow day. We shall see. Okay. All right, and that's quizzes 1 and 2. That's everything there. And now let's do quiz 3. This is solving equations. Okay, so if we go back to the stuff that we talked about before in the beginning, these two slides, right? Okay. The idea is, let's go here. You're either equal to each other, and then you solve an equation. You add them up, make it equal to 180, or you add them up and equal it to 90. So let's see that for a second. Let's talk about that. So we have vertical angles, and they look alike, right? So they are alike. And you set them equal to each other and solve. Go ahead and solve that one and put it in the private chat. So here they add up. Sorry, the two of these are equal. They're vertical. So 8x plus 3 equals 9x minus 7. x equals 10. Now, if it's the algebra that causes you the headache, you can go into the Desmos calculator and solve this problem. Let me show you that really quickly, okay? You might have learned this in algebra, I'm not sure. But let me open up the class dashboard. Hold on. All right, let me do this. So if you go down to the actually, let's go to the student views. This is what it'll look like on yours. So if we go down to the Desmos graphing calculator, all right, not the Desmos geometry, but the Desmos graphing calculator, and go ahead and open that up. Now, in that problem that we just had a second ago, where we had this equation, one thing that you can do is you can graph the left-hand side and you can graph the right-hand side. So you go up in here and you say y equals 8x plus 3. And it graphs a line. And then y equals 9x minus 7. Now, you're probably going to have to zoom out, okay, which you can use these buttons over here on the right, plus or minus. You know, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. Now, you can see if you come in here that they crossed each other. And if you do that, you'll see right there that we come up with this point, 10, 83. You want the x value, and that is 10. So it solved the problem for you. It found it for you. You didn't have to do anything. You just graph the left-hand side and you graph the right-hand side, and it gives you your answer. It's where they cross. Anybody ever see that before? All right, well, let's do that again for another problem. Okay, so let's do this one. Let's say I have where was it? So I have 9x minus 5 and 18x minus 4. Now these two are not equal, right? They don't look the same. And if you go to your notes, you'll see that these are a linear pair and they make that straight line. So we're going to add them up. And set it equal to 180. Now, let's go to Desmos and solve this problem. So I'm going to go ahead and clear these out because they're from the old problem. And I'm going to go ahead and type in the entire left-hand side, y equals 9x minus 5 plus 18x minus 4. And it gives me this really steep line, but that's okay. And then y equals 180. And I probably got to zoom out. There it is, you see? And if I click on where they intersected, there's my answer, 7. So if your algebra is the thing that's giving you headache, graph the left-hand side, graph the right-hand side. Y equals this and Y equals that. You got to put it in the Y equals, otherwise it doesn't know what to do. Okay. That might be useful to some of you. Okay. And just to say that it really is true, let's solve the problem. So I have 27x minus 9 is 180. Add 9 to both sides. And now divide. And x is 7. So you really just need to know what to do with each pair. Okay. You either set them up as equals if they look equal, or you add them up and set it equal to 180. Those are your only choices. Okay. So with the parallel line ones, we did this. We had that check dot, check dot, check dot, check dot. And if you think about what we did a little earlier, where we said that all 4 of these were the same as all 4 of those, that's the same here. Okay. And so if you have 2 of the same things, like 2 dots or 2 checks, then they're equal and you set them equal. But if you have different things, then you add them up to 180. Okay. So you can use Desmos, that's fine. And let's say that this is, I'm going to tell you that that's an 80 right there. And this is 9x plus 8. So you could go to well, first you got to decide, are they the same or are they different? And if they're the same, then they're equal. So you go to Desmos and you go ahead and you graph y equals this and then hit enter and go y equals that and hit enter and find where they intersect. So go ahead and do that for me. Put your answer in the private chat. Okay, did anybody get an answer to this? Okay, great. So these two look the same. They are the same. So we set them equal. Now you could go into Desmos and graph this and then graph that, and it'll give you an answer. Or you could do some old school algebra. And now divide by 9, and x equals 8. Okay. So if I gave you this one and this one, so these two, they don't look alike, right? One's a big angle, right? Yeah, it's a big angle, and one's a tiny angle. So they're not the same. So that means that you're going to take these two and you're going to add them up. Remember, dot equals dot, check equals check, and check plus a dot equals 180. And these are the equations you use to set them up. And since I've got a check and a dot, that's your equation. You take this, you put it there, you take this, you put it there, you add them up, and you make your equation. So write down your equation and then either solve it by hand in a calculator or use the Desmos, because that one will do it for you. Go ahead and do that now. Okay. Anybody get an answer? Cool. All right, let's do this. So I'm about to run out of room over here, so I'm just going to move it over a little bit. I'm going to combine my like terms, 29x plus 35 equals 180. And now subtract 35. So 29x equals 145. And then divide by 29. And x is 5. All right. So that's all there is, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen. Um, the all you that's all you've got. That's all there is to do. And those are all three of the quizzes. So believe it or not, now it's the time for you to ask questions. I'm going to stop the recording. I hope everyone got something out of it. Um, please finish your quizzes before Friday. And remember, everyone has two chances at each quiz. So if you don't do so great, you can retake it. Okay, you can either retake it right away, or you can study a little more and then retake again. But you have two chances for each quiz. Okay, and I'll take the better of the two scores, so it can't hurt if you try again. Okay, so please, if you don't do as well as you'd like, try it again and see what happens. But let's get all of these quizzes done uh, as soon as you can before Friday. Don't wait. Remember, no quizzes in January on this. So at this point, I'm going to stop the recording and answer questions if anybody has any.